Okay, in the last video we talked about how to take a blood pressure, but in this video I want to talk a little bit more about the blood pressure equipment and how to read a blood pressure gauge. So you all have your blood pressure cuff and your blood pressure gauge. We're going to actually talk about the gauge a little bit more in a little more detail. So I have in front of me a pretty large picture of a blood pressure gauge, and I want to talk about these numbers that you see here in the circle. They start at 20 and they work all the way down over to 300. Okay, so each one of these little lines and the big lines, they all represent a certain number. So you have 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. You might be asking yourself, well, where's 30 and where's 50 and where's 70? Well, they're there, they're just not written because it would be too cluttered. So what they decided to do is do in even numbers, 20, 40, 60, 80. But 30 would be this large line right here. It's right between the 20 and 40. And if you look at this large line right here between 40 and 60, that's actually 50. And then there's 70, this would be 90, 110. So pretty easy to read. You just have to kind of keep in mind that it's written to kind of keep the screen looking somewhat clean and not cluttered. So again, I want to draw your attention to, let's say here, 100. Between 100 and 110, you have these small lines. And what do those represent? Well, this line is 100. The next line is 102, 104, 106, 108, and then this long line here is 110. The next one would be 112, 114, 116, 118, and then this line is 120. So you can see that the calibrations are graduated in increments of 2. So therefore, when you take a blood pressure with a gauge like this, there wouldn't be odd numbers. Odd numbers are like 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. You don't see odd numbers here. This is all based on an even number system. So you have 100, 102, 104, 106, 108, and then 110. Those are all even numbers, no odd numbers. So when you're taking a blood pressure and you inflate, your needle will shoot up. As you begin to release the pressure, the needle will begin to work its way back down. The idea is to watch on your gauge where the needle position is when you hear that very first sound. If it happens to be right here, that would be 124. It'll continue to, you'll continue to hear the pulse as it works its way farther and farther down. And remember, you're gonna listen all the way down until you hear that last pulse and what that needle position is. So if you hear the first one at 124, it might sound like until it disappears. We want to go all the way down until the sound disappears. So we're going to count all the way down to even the lightest or the weakest sounding pulse. And as soon as you hear that last pulse, that's going to be your bottom number. So let's say you hear it beat all the way down to here, then that would be 76. Okay, so 4 minus 80 would be 76. If it was 1 below 80, that would be 78. And so you're really doing a couple of things at the same time. You're watching your needle, you're listening for the sounds, and then you're marking on your gauge where the first and last sound was heard. Now this takes practice. You have to do it a few times, but I'm sure that in time you're going to really build up your speed. If you have any questions, make sure to ask us, and I think the trick here is just to practice as much at home as you can. Practice at home. When you come to class, you're going to be practicing on each other, and we're going to be there to guide you if you